Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemens, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We're back on the radio tonight, not just on social media like we were last night. We had a little technical difficulty, but Bob got it fixed because Bob is a master at stuff like that. So I appreciate him. Got it fixed, got it rocking and rolling. I think we're good to go, unless the storms knock us out tonight. We're supposed to get kind of bad here in a minute, but we're going for it. So hope you guys had a great day. We are live on 98.7 Walk by Faith. We're live on 1420 AM. We're streaming on 987radio.com. We're live on all of our social media pages. And last night, if you guys on the radio didn't get an opportunity to hear because you didn't hear our show on the radio last night, if you didn't get an opportunity, you could go to the Rock Health and Wellness Centers on Facebook, or you can go at Health from the Rock is the @ sign, at Health from the Rock. On YouTube, or Jason Clemens DC on X, and you could catch our Taking Health to Church last night, our show last night. So we did our Easter Sunday interpretation. It was my own little interpretation of it. I think it went pretty good. We got some good feedback from it, and I think that if you're interested, you can go check that out. You might even catch it on the Walk by Faith Facebook page. But it is on our social media pages, and it'll stay there for a little while, and then Facebook is now deleting those if they've been there for too long of a period of time, but all the rest of them will stay on YouTube if you ever want to go back and check one of those out. So that's what we did last night. It was a little bit of an abbreviated show. We just went through the Taking Health to Church, and then we just called it a night. So, but tonight we're back on schedule, and I had a cool thing happen to me this week. It's already Tuesday, and I mean, it's only Tuesday, and I've already had a cool thing happen to me this week. I have one of my girls that I take care of, one of my young women that I take care of, and she was pregnant, and we adjusted her all the way through the entire pregnancy. She did fantastic. This was her 4th child, and we had the opportunity to adjust all the little guys so far. The oldest one's not so little anymore. He's like 6 or 7 years old, I think. But she came in on Monday, and I wasn't expecting to see her. And she'd come in to the midwife and got a checkup, and just kind of just see what's going on. And then she came over to the office and got adjusted. And she called Leslie, and Leslie set her up. And I didn't know she was coming. So I came around the corner and I saw her, and I just kind of got that kind of a nervous feeling about what was going on. I looked at her and I was like, "Are you having contractions?" And she was like, "Yes, I am, just kind of, a little bit." And I was like, "Okay." And her husband was with her, and he said, "This is going to be the fastest adjustment you've ever done." And I was like, "You bet. It's going to be pretty close, I bet." But no, we got her taken care of. And she was asking me about if one of the techniques we used actually induced labor. And I said, "No, I never heard of that. If I could figure out that adjustment that induces labor, I'm pretty certain I would be the richest chiropractor in the state of Texas." But it wasn't. That's having a baby is one of the most. It's got to be the most natural thing on earth in the history of humanity. I mean, it's just it's innate intelligence at its finest, right there. That is, it's amazing how that works. And the best thing to do is just relax and let your body be in that parasympathetic rest and recover state. And that's exactly what she did. She was doing great, but she came in it was like 11:45, I think, yesterday morning, and we got her adjusted. And then she texted me this morning, and she was like, "Hey, we had a baby yesterday afternoon, and can we get her in to get her adjusted?" She was she had just a slight little issue that she needed to get dealt with, and so she brought her in this morning about 11:30. So the baby was born at about 3:12, I think she said, yesterday afternoon, and she brought her in and got her adjusted this morning at 11:30, and which was super cool. So we adjusted the mom on Monday at 11:45. The baby was born at 3:12, and the baby got her first adjustment at 11:30 this morning. So pretty awesome stuff that's happening. It's a cool job to be a wellness chiropractor. And you might ask the question, why? Like, why would you do that, right? if you're new to the show, you might ask the question why. If you've been around the show for a long time and listened to this for a while, then you totally understand why, right? Because that baby has a nervous system, and we want that nervous system to be functioning as optimally as possible for the entire life. We don't want to wait. It's a Western philosophy. It's a Western medical, pharmaceutical driven philosophy to wait until you have dysfunction or pain or whatever your problem is, and then go seek care. That is a Western. That's not the way that the Chinese do it. That's not the way the Japanese do it. That's not the way a lot of people on Earth do it. It's not a way a lot of people on Earth have done it for years and years and years. And so the idea that you're going to adjust, I think I figured it up. She was like 20 hours old, whatever, 312, about 20 and a half hours old when she got her first adjustment, and she just loved every minute of it. She got a little fussy at the end when I was ready to give her back to her mom, but she did super great. And adjusting a little baby is a very soft and gentle process. It's a very soft and gentle process, and there's some specific things to do. And there's no popping, there's no cracking your bones and all that stuff that you see on the internet and all the things that you think are going on with chiropractic. It's not like that at all. That's not what happens. It's very gentle, it's very soft, and you're just checking a few things. You're checking some reflexes and making sure that things are lined up right. And so she did fantastic. So I checked on her this afternoon. When I was on my way back from Littlefield, text the mom. I needed to actually text my friend over in Roswell, Kati Lewis. You hear me talk about MJ Kati all the time. Kati has a diplomate in pediatrics. She is an expert in babies and moms when it comes to chiropractic. She's an expert in a lot of stuff. She's a valedictorian. She's super smart. She's way smart. She's way smarter than MJ and I, that's for sure. But she's great. I love Kati, and she's super helpful. And so this little issue that we were dealing with, I sent her a text and a picture. I said, "Hey, what do you think of this right here?" And she answered me back and really gave me some good pointers. And so it's super great to have a collection of chiropractors. I've talked to my friend in Rito, so I've talked to both my friends in Roswell, and I've talked to my friend in Delray Beach, Florida this week about something related to what's going on here in the office. And it's super cool to have a group of guys who are committed to health and wellness, guys and gals that are committed to health and wellness, who really are on the same page with what we're trying to do, who you don't have to spend a lot of time when you send a message, you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining what you mean by your message. Right? Because we're all on the same thing. We're all doing the same thing in the clinics, and we're all passionately working hard to try to make sure that we are better every single day at what we're doing. And so you can send a text. It's such a cool thing. You can send a text. It can be a short little description. Hey, what do you think? What do we got here? And we'll just send those texts back and forth all the time. My friend Doritos has sent me a text of a young girl that's got a tumor in her humerus, a gymnast, and he's like, "What do you think about this?" And of course, in Texas, that's a referral situation, but in New Mexico, you've got an opportunity to help that. And the girl was going to see her surgeon, orthopedic, and all that sort of thing. So Joe does a great job. He's got a diplomate in orthopedics, Dr. Fraley in Rito. So he's basically a diplomate in about every subject you can get diplomate in. He's a super smart dude, but he sent that. MJ sent an x-ray about an upper cervical thing, and I sent some information down to South Florida to my friend Dr. Condi, the Condi Center for Chiropractic Neurology. He is a diplomate in chiropractic neurology. He was our valedictorian, co-valedictorian of our class in chiropractic school, and has been a friend of mine for 20-something years now. Super cool. Thanks, Kati, for that. I really appreciate that help. I've already talked to the mom about that, and we're getting that situation straightened out. So in more ways than one. When the chiropractor says he's getting that situation straightened out, he's serious about that, right? So that was cool. That was really cool. the workout today. The workout today was 5 rounds. I'll share it with you. It was 5 rounds. Sometimes you get to the gym and you don't necessarily feel like working out. And when I was in high school, it was one of the best workouts. It kind of always ended up being one of the best workouts. Me and my good friend Mickey Reeves, who passed away a couple of years ago, we were workout partners in high school. And when we would go through our circuits in the off season, I'd get there and I'd look at Mick and I'd be like, "Man, I don't want to work out today." And he would look at me and he's like, "I don't want to work out either." And that would last about one station. Because we were the leaders of the team, and it was kind of like, "Hey man, let's go." I was the quarterback of the team, and Mick was the best player in New Mexico, and so it was like, let's go with it. And those always ended up being really good workouts. And so but this morning I got to the gym. My eating was just a little bit off yesterday. I didn't eat it outside the boundaries or anything, but it just it was just it wasn't quite as inspiring as I have been eating. And so I didn't have a lot of energy. I didn't sleep all that fabulous last night, and I didn't have a lot of energy. So I got to the gym this morning, and I was in there by myself. I almost turned on a video. I thought about just turn your phone on and video this so that it gets you motivated a little bit. But it was a 22-minute workout, something like that. It was great. It was 5 rounds. It was a rower bike for 2 minutes. And when you do that, you can control your own intensity. So if you have an exercise bike at home or some sort of recumbent bike, or you've got a rowing machine or a treadmill, it's something at home, you can do this same thing. You can add walking to that. You can add running to that. But we did 2 minutes of that, and then we did 10 box step up. So we've got the big boxes. You've seen them in CrossFit gyms and that type of thing. We don't hop up on them. We don't do box jumps. We do box step ups. And so did 10 of those, 5 with each foot, and then did 20 crunches. And then that lasted, it lasted a little over, it's probably 3.5 minutes, maybe a little under 3.5 minutes to get all that done. And then I rested for a minute and did that 5 rounds, and it was great. So just wanted to share that with you. Well, I want to share these workouts with you whenever we have an opportunity, because you might be wanting to do some of these at home, and you might want to see what they look like. I know there's lots of ways to work out, and I know there's lots of people on the internet that supply people with workouts. So I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to compete in that realm this way. You guys are watching the show. You might want to know a little bit about how you can set up your own workout. Just remember, you're working on that 3-minute. For the most part, you're just working on that 3-minute energy cycle that's going to peak at about a minute, and that if you can set something up that you go pretty intense, and then for somewhere, in that time frame, and then just repeat that whole thing for about whatever. That's the 1 minute mark there, and repeat it 4 or 5 times. You'll have a good workout. So. I also wrote down just a reminder, because I haven't mentioned it in quite a while. But if you need some standard process supplements, you can get your standard process supplements at therock.standardprocess.com. You can go there. If any of those supplements, if you need advice on what supplements to take, then I'd be glad to help you with that. And but that's another place that you can go. If you're looking for supplements, so it's great. You can get all the standard process that we sell in our office. You can get it right there. You can come get it from us. You can call me and I'll send it to you, or you can just order it right straight from therock.standardprocess.com. So that's enough of that, and let's get on with it. So hey, last week I mentioned something I was really excited about. And I did lots of research. I've been researching this for quite some time, but I actually started researching seriously about a month ago. And I have probably done more due diligence on this than I've done on anything that we've purchased here in the office, and it's really kind of fun. It's funny because I told myself at the beginning of last year, like, dude, you just need to work for a while and get some of this stuff paid off, okay? And then before you order something else. But I tell you, that's an upside down triangle for me. What does that mean? That means that that's not the way that I operate, and it doesn't fit. I told Leslie today it doesn't necessarily fit, uh, you know, bankers and finance people and all that sort of thing. All you business people out there that are smart when it comes to business and all that. I don't fit. You don't. I don't. You just. I don't fit in your realm of things. And I know that over the years I've had some criticism from some finance people about that. And guess what? I'm still here, and we're still working, and we're still seeing patients. So maybe we just don't fit. And I told her, your old boyfriends. I said at lunch, your old boyfriends didn't see me coming either, and neither did Texas. And so in '92. So this ain't the first time that's happened, but uh, in the realm of the 5P triangle, right? In the realm of the 5P triangle, you start with your purpose on the bottom, and then your philosophy. And then you get into procedures, then you get into, psychology, and then you get into procedures. And at the top, you get into prosperity, whatever you define your prosperity as, right? That's the 5P triangle. Okay, my purpose is to serve people through chiropractic wellness. As a wellness chiropractor based in functional neurology, my purpose is to serve people. So if I'm actually driving my psychology through my purpose, then I make these decisions and the things that I do. That triangle being upside down means that I've got my prosperity on its point, and my prosperity, lack of or excess of, whatever the illusion is that you have in prosperity, if that prosperity is driving that psychology, that's when I'll tell myself, hey, dude, you need to don't be buying any new equipment this year, because you don't you need to get some of this stuff paid off before you do something like that. And there's a fine line between being a steward of your possessions and what you've been given, and driving yourself through your purpose. Well, I can tell you that conversation that I've had the last 2 years in a row, it came from that triangle being upside down, and that's not really ultimately what I'd use to drive me. It's not what drives me. So what we've done last year, we bought neurofeedback, which is great. And the neurofeedback has really helped some people, and I'm super excited that we have it in the office. But this year, I've been looking at this for a little bit, and we have added. So I signed the dotted line today. I finally went through it. I worked really hard. I had some really good sales representatives helping me try to decide which machine to buy, because there's a lot of machines to buy. And I finally narrowed it down to 2 of them, and then I worked through the process, and we got this done. So everything's been done. It's been financed. Everything has been signed, and that should be shipped out in the morning. So we should be getting a Shockwave. And so what is Shockwave? If you may have never heard of it before, what is Shockwave therapy, and why, Jason, would you add it to the Rock Health and Wellness Center? What is the purpose of that? Well, I'll tell you what the purpose is. What Shockwave does, and I'll come back to this screen, but what Shockwave does is it basically wakes up areas of the body that have gone through a healing process and kind of stopped. So the brain, and I know this, you may have seen like scraping or cupping or gua sha is a technique. There's some different kinds of techniques. Sometimes they'll do it in bone stimulation, like micro fractures of the tibia. You've heard that. You may have heard of that before, where they're going to take an area that needs to be re-stimulated for whatever reason, that it kind of went through the healing process, And maybe during the healing process, it didn't complete the healing process. Maybe the body said, this is stable enough, let's move on to the next thing. Maybe the body was like, maybe the brain said, um, I'm not in a rest and recover situation. I'm more of in a fight or flight response, and I need to just put a Band-Aid on this thing, and then I need to move on. And then it just kind of got left there. And maybe we've used a tendon in a way that we're starting to lay down calcium inside that tendon. It's a calcified tendon, maybe in the shoulder or in the hip or in the knee. And what Shockwave does is two different things. There's two different types of shockwave. There's radial shockwave and there's focused shockwave. And radial shockwave is it. It's more like uh, a shotgun type of approach, to where you get this pulse that it's called extracorporeal, and that means it's outside of the body. You get this pulse that is generated that goes into the tissue. But in a radial machine, this goes into the tissue and it expands quickly, so it's not getting very deep. So you're going to get a shock wave, and what it does is it sends that shock wave through the tissue, and it just stimulates the tissue. It stimulates the tissue and the immune system to kind of re-kick the immune system up again, re-kick the healing process up again, and try to create some stimulation in the tissue so that the body will pick up where it left off and restart the healing process. And so the radial is a little bit of a wider distribution, and it's not as deep, so you can use it more in the tissue, in the muscle tissue. You can use it through the skin, and you can use it through the muscle tissue to stimulate areas. So and then the focused is when we really need to get to a deeper point. Like if we're working in the shoulder and we really need to go through some tissue to get down to the bone, get down to the origin of the tendon, get down to the bone itself, and stimulate that tissue with the shockwave. That's what the focus does. So we can use that more on the shoulders. We can use that more on the knees. We can use that more on the hips. And there's been some incredible stuff with this shockwave. It's regenerative, and that's kind of a big deal these days about regenerative medicine. And I don't like the word medicine, but it's regenerative care. It's like, hey, can we stimulate healing and get the body, get the innate intelligence, and we're not going to invent anything new, and we're not creating healing from outside of the body. Okay, I want to make sure that that's perfectly clear, because I had I had a great conversation with MJ in Roswell about this particular philosophical stance. We don't use ultrasound in the office. We don't use electric stim. We don't do heat packs and all that sort of thing. And mainly the reason that we don't do that is because I have found that over the years that a lot of reasons that people do that is because of insurance billing. Okay, they'll use all kinds of that stuff so they can bill the insurance. And we don't operate that way. And so we haven't. I've been very hesitant about bringing that into the office. So it's taken me 20 years to actually bring a device into the office like this, but I really do think enough of it to do that. And it fits very well into the philosophical premise of what we're trying to do. Let's say you have a knee problem. Like my mom had both knees replaced and a hip replacement. And I wonder if I could have helped my mom with this type of technology by doing focused shockwave on her knees and then re-stimulating, because it'll do, let me run back one. Indications for focused shockwave are musculoskeletal, soft tissue, wounds. It actually works in wound healing. So we might be able to help, like diabetic neuropathy people and that type of thing with some of those wounds that they've got that's not healing. Bone degeneration or damage, pain, fibrosis, and scarring, trigger points, and chronic inflammation. All those are indications for focused shockwave. So it's really kind of cool. There's there's tons and tons of research on shockwave therapy, and the it's kind of like, well, let's start with this. The initial shockwave was with lithotripsy. If you ever had a kidney stone blasted and broken up into little pieces, this is the technology that's used to break up those kidney stones. That's where it all started. And so, and the company, um, there's different companies that make these machines, and you can get them from, oh man, there's all kinds of prices that you can get these machines at, and that's why it took me so long to research them all, because I went through every company, and they brand them. You got to watch out with, because a lot of times they'll rebrand them as something. Softwave is one of them that is rebranded, and it's kind of popular. StemWave is one of them you might have seen. OmniWave is another one. Dr. Fraley got OmniWave in Ruidoso a couple weeks ago, so I'm really interested to see about what the comparisons that we get. But all those, the StemWave, the OmniWave, the SoftWave, are just they're focused machines. And so I was trying to decide, well, what are we going to do with the focus machines? And then my good friend in South Florida, that's part of the reason I was talking to Dr. Condi, was I was talking to him about his radio, because he's got a radial machine. And so I talked to him about that. And when we come, we got to take a break right now. But when we get back from the break, I'll break that down. We'll continue talking about this, and then I got a couple other things that I think would be cool to talk about tonight, some headline stuff. So you guys stick around with us. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC, and we'll be right back right after these messages. Yeah, so I spent some time visiting with my friend in South Florida, and he literally has one of the premier um, functional neurology, chiropractic neurology, not functional neurology, chiropractic neurology offices, maybe in the United States. He's a leader in patient care. Excuse me. He's a leader in patient care. He's worked with the Carrick Institute. He's worked with the National Hockey League and Sidney Crosby and people like that. He is a super fantastic guy. Got a great family. I love them all to death. But so I asked him. I said, John, what do you have on your Shockwave machine? And he told me what he had, and he told me that he had the radial machine, and so we visited about why he was going in with the radial instead of the focused and all that. And I said, what do you think about it? And how's it working in your office? And because he's got a couple of doctors that are working with him, and he does a lot of stuff, and he invests a lot of money in equipment, just like Dr. Fraley does, and just like MJKT do. And we've done the same thing in our office to try to, with the Ultra-G treadmill and the decompression table and all of the stuff that we have in the gym, and the balance plate and the neurofeedback and all the things that we're doing. And so I kind of wanted to know, why did he choose the radial versus the focused? And so we discussed it, and then I discussed it with Dr. Fraley, and about which one was the best fit, the radial or the focused. And he did the focused. And so I just thought, I see applications for both of them, and I think it's, I couldn't decide. It was like one without the other. I didn't really want to. I didn't really want to do one without the other. To tell you the honest truth, I was like, I think it's. I think both of them are going to be very important to our people. I think both of them are going to give us an opportunity to serve some people in different ways, and so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get both machines. I didn't just want to have one machine. So, hang on one second. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We're talking about shockwave therapy a little bit tonight, and we're talking about the two machines that we got. So we ended up getting both of them. The focused one is, and you say why? Well, I've got some people that really are working hard on their health. They're doing everything we're asking them to do. They're getting adjusted, they're exercising, they're taking their fish oil, and they're watching their diets, and they're doing all of those things. They're super social people. They're big in their church. They do a lot of great things, but they've been through some things in their lifetime. We've had some shoulder surgeries that we're dealing with. We've had some knee replacement stuff or knee issues that we're dealing with. We've had some chronic low back stuff that we're dealing with. And even though these people are doing everything that they can possibly do to try to be healthy, I just felt like there's a little bit more that we can add. And so that's why I made the decision to do that. And look into so the focus machine, we really can. We can get into those deeper areas like the shoulders. The indications for the focus, I told you all those originally. The focus shockwave originated from an electromagnetic field in the handpiece and produces a high pressure peak at a very short amount of time. Focus shockwave can penetrate deep into tissue, approximately 12 centimeters, with a precise focus on small target areas. For example, it allows for focused treatment of heel pain at a depth of 1 inch caused by plantar fasciitis, or treatment of a hip at a depth of up to 12 centimeters. So you can really get in there and and the main three things that it does is it's going to firstly, it's going to stimulate the body, and then it's going to decrease inflammation. So it's going to get in and decrease inflammation. It's going to increase blood supply. So now we're going to cause the body to bring new blood supply back to the tissue that may have been neglected a little bit, like we just kind of moved away from that healing process. So now we're just going to, it's basically in a very controlled environment and very pinpoint environment. It's almost like a stimulation of the healing process. Maybe like you re-injured a little bit in a controlled way to allow it to heal itself back. And then that third thing is it recruits stem cells so we can get the regenerative process. That's really the part I'm excited the most about in the therapy, is the regenerative process. What about the knees? What about the knees that are bone on bone? And I called around and talked to some different chiropractors, talked to one of them here in town. He was very helpful, and I really appreciate him. And he said he's had really good success with people with bone on bone in the knees. I actually had a person last time I spoke over at the Wise group. She came up to me afterwards and she asked me, "Do you do shockwave therapy?" And I said, at the moment I don't, but I have been looking into it. And so she that was another reason. Is like, people are asking me about this shockwave, and I think there's people that can benefit from it. It's a very short treatment, 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to do it very often. It's like 6 to 8 treatments, sometimes 10, but those last 2 you can spread out over a couple months just to hit it one more time and regenerate that blood supply. And and a lot of times, after the first treatment, that whether or not it's going to work, like, if you're going to get some results from it. So that's all based on all of the research I've done and all the doctors I've talked to about how it works. So that's the focus shockwave. And then the radial shockwave, it's FDA approved for the following indications: reduce muscle pain and aches, temporarily increasing blood flow, and activate connective tissue. So it's pretty cool that the things that it has the ability to do kind of get in there and work. So it's not going to take away from eating well, move well, think well, right? It's not going to take away from getting adjusted. It's not going to take away from doing your exercises. It's not going to take away from taking your fish oil. It's just an added addition to some areas that we are not reaching. That's what I think. I think that's what it is, and so we'll have both of those. And then I wanted to just share a couple, just really quickly, just some couple of research articles that are here that just to kind of let you know that it's very, very researched. And so this one is the effects of extracorporeal shockwave therapy on nerve conduction, a systematic review and meta-analysis. The background, extracorporeal shockwave therapy, that means that the shockwave is coming from outside the body, is a non-invasive physical agent modality and was effective in relieving spasticity, reducing pain, and improving dysfunction. The systematic review and the meta-analysis aim to investigate the effects of this extracorporeal shockwave treatment on nerve conduction. So it's like right up our alley with the stuff that we're trying to do, right? Does it help, right? And the background, it's been shown to be effective in relieving spasticity, reducing pain, and improving dysfunction. The results, a total of 879 papers and 22 different trials were included in this analysis. There's literally thousands of research papers over this shockwave treatment. And the conclusion was it had excitatory effects on peripheral nerves, especially on sensory nerve studies. So, and then it goes on to say, although the efficacy of the treatment was superior of that of the control group, and the combined treatment with physical therapy was more effective than physical therapy alone. Yes, so we can do the things that we do here in the office, and then we can add this therapy to your treatment plan, and then now we can make your treatment plan better. That's what I really think we're going to do with it. And then here's another one. It's blocking. I can't see it, but I think the Frontiers of Neurology or something. But this one says a systematic review of shockwave therapies in soft tissue conditions. Background, it is now extensively used for the treatment of musculoskeletal injuries. And then the results, 23 appropriate studies were identified, and it said the treatment modalities are safe. So that was a big thing for me when I was making this decision. Is it safe? And does it work? And the research says both of those things are true. There's evidence that it is effective in the treatment of plantar fasciitis, calcific tendonitis, in both the focus shockwave and then the radial shockwave with plantar fasciitis. So we've got some feet. I've got some plantar fasciitis issues. We've used the AMIT. We've done some of the brain stuff, and we're just not getting the kind of results that I want. I think maybe we could go in there and reshock that a little bit, stimulate that healing process. I think we can make a lot of difference in that particular area. So I just wanted to share that with you. That's all I got on Shockwave. And I just wanted to share that with you because I'm excited to have it. I'm glad it's here. Yeah, the foot pads that have electricity shooting up your feet, are those similar? Yes, that's the same type of deal. You're getting into that tissue. And you could use the radial, depending on the patient, and that's a question from Facebook. Depending on the patient, whether we would kind of analyze the situation first to make sure the depth that we needed, because the radial shockwave treatment is a broader area, so it takes less time because we can cover more tissue with it. The focused is where we're really trying to hit one pinpoint spot, and it's going to focus that wave down to one pinpoint spot, and then so we're going to need to kind of work on that a little bit. It's a deeper penetration, so we can both the focused and the radial have been shown to be effective with plantar fasciitis and that heel pain problem that a lot of people have. And I've got several. I've got one of my guys has had surgery on that ankle and had pins in the ankle, multiple surgeries. Pins in the ankle got removed, the bones have fused together, and now we're having this horrible heel pain. And we've been working on it. We've done a lot of stuff with it, and it just keeps recurring. And so I'm really looking forward to see how this particular treatment works on that heel pain. It's so funny, you start to study something like this, you start looking at all the different treatments that you can use, and you start looking at all the patients, and it's like, golly, there's another knee, there's another low back, there's another foot, There's another shoulder. There's another shoulder. There's another shoulder. And you know what I try to get, what we're trying to accomplish, and we're not going to ever abandon our chiropractic, right? We're not going to abandon our neurology because we want to fire the brain. We want the brain to inhibit the flexor muscles. We want the body to go into extension. All those things have to, those things still have to take place. But now I think we've got something for you guys that fills the gap, maybe between the initial phase of your shoulder hurts until that wellness phase, that you just had to kind of go through a little bit of time where it was a little more painful than you wish it was. Now we've got something that might fill the gap right there. And I'm really excited about it. I really haven't gotten into a lot of athletic treating of athletes like you would think that I might. I'll just say it that way. You would think, with my background, growing up in athletics, my dad being a coach, spending my entire life in athletics, starting baseball the year before I was in kindergarten, started football when I was in first grade. I wrestled in the fourth grade in Del City, played basketball starting in the fourth grade. I love sports and spent my whole life in sports all the way through college, and played college quarterback all the way 5 years, and then coached for 6 years college football. So you would think that I would be more involved in athletics, and I'm really not. And I'm partially not because I believe every single person ought to get treated. I don't think athletes are any more special than the person that teaches first grade down here at Crestview, or the guy that drives the truck, or anything. I think everybody should have that, and it's been kind of my passion for the last 20 years. At the same time, I still think I know a little bit about helping athletes, and I really do think that some of the things we're doing from a neurology standpoint, and some of the things we're doing from a soft tissue standpoint, like the AMIT I was talking about on Friday, and the muscle activation work that we're doing, the functional neurology and the muscle activation work go hand in hand. And now we take some of the flossing and the voodoo wrap stuff that we do, and the rock tape that we're doing, and now you add this radial shockwave stuff to that. These little, this elbow stuff that's going on in Little League and some of these high school athletes. Plus, we've also got the reflex, pupillary light reflex app that where we can baseline concussions. So we could have the entire team before the season started get a baseline test. We could have the whole entire team get a baseline test uh, of muscles as well. That's what, remember I talked about Dr. Bueller on Friday, talking about how he was the team doctor for the Utah Jazz basketball team for 20 something years or 19 years or whatever it was. And then when I went to learn AMIT up in Utah, he had just taken over for the BYU basketball team. And one of the things that you could do with AMIT is you can run through a scan before the season starts. It's AMIT is super cool because it's predictive of injury. I can run through the body, 605 muscles we learned up there with AMIT. We can scan the body with muscle tests and identify the muscles that are not functioning properly, and then address those muscles before the season starts. Like, I got so disgusted, and I'm not saying that our training staff was bad by any means at all, and those guys know a lot more about training athletes, college people, than I do. But I think where they're missing, I think the Texas Tech basketball team would have been had a better, maybe a better outcome if we could have kept our players on the floor. And I think we might have could have kept our players on the floor if we would have had a little bit of a different chiropractic response to those guys. And so this might be something that we can do to kind of help all athletes at all levels in what we're doing. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to help grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads and kids and the whole thing. So anyway, that's all I got. Let's move on, and we'll move away from the shockwave stuff. I wanted to talk about a couple of headline things that's going on out there that you may have seen, and these, it's a big deal. So Robert Kennedy Jr. is working. He's up there working, and he's trying to get some things done. And he is, he's pushing some boundaries a little bit. And so there was they've come out and they're talking about the U.S. is calling on food companies to remove all synthetic food dyes by 2027. And let me just say this: if you're under the illusion that a food company would knowingly, they have the science and they have the evidence that what they are selling to the American public is toxic to those people and dangerous. If you're under the illusion that they would never do that, then you're living in a naive world, because I'm telling you, they do that every single day. And they've been doing that every single day since the beginning of the food industry in America. And they don't, Hershey, go look at Hershey. Don't tell me Hershey didn't know that all that sugar and all that chocolate wasn't good for you. It didn't make any difference to him. Go look at Heinz ketchup and go look at Post Toasties and go look at all those things from way back in the day, right? And that's been going on for a long time. And so I'm glad that Robert Kennedy is pushing some of this stuff in this synthetic food dye thing. Announcing the move, Robert Kennedy said food companies are open to the change. That's good. That's good. They're open to the change because you forced them a little bit. Here's the evidence on synthetic dyes and health issues like cancer and ADHD. This is Business Insider. They're not for the whatever, but U.S. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy said Tuesday that he has ordered food companies to remove 8 petroleum-based dyes from their products. Speaking alongside the FDA and food activists, Kennedy said brands will have to have until 2027 to voluntarily reformulate their food and drinks using natural dyes like carmine, turmeric, and beets, or adding warning labels to their products. Yeah, they shouldn't do that. Shouldn't add a warning label to your product and then serve your product anyway. They should fix the product. And I think if they were serious, they would. The move comes 3 months after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration banned red number 3 shortly before the Trump administration took office. 8 dyes under scrutiny today include citrus red number 2 and orange B, which are not widely produced. Those should be dropped in the immediate effect, the FDA commissioner said. Others more commonly used, red 40 is used in Gatorade, Doritos, Skittles. Yellow number 5 is used in whatever this is, Vigo's saffron rice, Fruit Loops, and some mustards. Blue number 1 is used in Mountain Dew Baja Blast. Green number 3 is used in NyQuil. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So some of the science. Okay, Kennedy has reportedly said that he believes artificial dyes cause ADHD in children. Over decades ago, the U.S. and Europe regulators reviewed the same evidence linking synthetic food dyes to ADHD in kids, but they drew different conclusions. Why would they do that? And why would a company know? That's what I'm talking about right there. Over a decade ago, it's like the tobacco industry didn't know that smoking was causing cancer in the lungs. Are you kidding me? Like the alcohol industry doesn't know that their product is a problem. The Coca-Cola industry, I listened to the CEO of Coca-Cola say there's nothing wrong with Coca-Cola. There's nothing toxic about Coca-Cola. But if you ask Dr. Lustig if it is, he'll tell you that high fructose corn syrup is toxic. So I think what we're coming to is we're coming to that age, and that's what the statement was last night. One of my guys said to me, like, man, there's just a lot of health things that are coming out, right? And that's the truth. It's like we've run the model for 100 years of sick care, and I think most people are tired of it. I think people are ready for a different model for not only themselves but for our kids, and I think it's good. But the EU concluded that the evidence was persuasive. Since then, many European brands have started using natural dyes instead. Products that contain synthetic dyes must display an ADHD warning for consumers. if they make it cheap enough, and that's part of the reason they make it cheap enough. And they do all that stuff in studies. When I was in chiropractic school, I was in a Sunday school class with one of the guys that was the brand manager for Roll Gold potato chips. He worked for Frito-Lay in Dallas. He's a big time dude, and he's a good Christian guy. Good Christian guy. And we were at a baseball game, and he showed up a little bit late, and I said, "Hey, what have you been doing?" And he's like, "Well, we're doing a study, some sort of test to see what kids like best in their chips." And they had a bunch of kids in there, and they were doing a focus group study, and they were giving them different colors and different shapes and all that sort of thing to see which ones they consumed the most. And that was what was going to lead them into what was going to be put into that bag. It was all based on money. It was not one time did they consider those kids sitting at that table. And I think it's tragic. I think that a company that does that, they don't consider that child sitting at that table. You're just going to feed them all kinds of different shapes. You're going to trick them into eating that stuff. You're going to trick them into it based on the shape and the color and the number of the dye that you put into it and all that sort of thing. Like, shame on those guys. They know better, and they've always known better. So the guys in Europe decided, hey, we probably should stop that. And the guys in America just said, just keep on going, brother. Let's just keep on putting that crap in those boxes, and let's keep feeding our kids with it. And a decade later, in 2021, researchers in the California EPA reviewed the available evidence on 7 artificial food dyes. They concluded that synthetic dyes can affect behavior in some kids. California Governor Gavin Newsom responded, ordering food companies to remove dyes from snacks in public schools by 2027. That was back in 2021. You got 6 years to remove the stuff that's poisoning the kids. Come on, man. Some dyes in the food system have been linked to cancer. In the late 1980s, scientists found male lab rats exposed to high levels of Red-3 developed thyroid tumors. Based on that study, the FDA declared Red-3 as carcinogen in 1990 and announced a ban on the dye in cosmetics. However, it took 30 years to see a ban on Red-3 in food, because the food industry, the big food, is bigger than the big pharma. And the way America works, as you guys know, America works on lobbyists. Whoever's got the best lobbyists are the ones that make the rules. So the ones that spend the most money on the lobbyists are the ones that make the rules, and they do that so that they can have big, gigantic yachts and things like that. They can have their houses in the Hamptons, and they can have their big, fancy cars and their boats and all that stuff. They don't do it because of health and wellness. I don't care anything about that, right? Less evidence for other healthy issues. There's other ones. 2013 study found Red-40 disrupted glucose metabolism. 2012 study found yellow number 5 caused DNA disruption in human blood cells. 2022 study found that red number 40 caused colitis in mice. You know, we talk about those things that bind us. When we talk about those a lot on this show, right? The things that bind us, the things that eat us up and make us sick, the things that separate us from the light of the world. It's physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. Physical, chemical, and that's what this is right here. It's chemical stress. The Gatorade and the Skittles and the yellow rice or whatever that stuff is, those are things that get in our systems that's not supposed to be in our system, and it disrupts the things. And you wonder why the kids can't sit still in school. It's not just the fact that they're getting the sugar for breakfast and the lack of protein for breakfast, but it's also the fact that what else is in the sugary breakfast is the colors. And so now we're putting the artificial colors and the sugary breakfast into the children, and then we're getting onto the children when they can't sit still, and then we're giving them a drug to combat some of the other stuff, like give them their Ritalin so that they can sit still and pay attention, and that makes no sense. Y'all don't think so, do you? Okay, let's get one that is way more positive and inspiring to end the show tonight. Okay, let's talk about this one. Because, trick question, what is the number one thing? What is the most important thing for your brain? Can anybody answer that question? What's the most important thing for your brain? If you just said being social is the number one thing for your brain, you are correct. Having good relationships, being social, and having good quality relationships is the number one thing for your brain. So I saw this article in Women's Health. Walking while doing this activity might reduce your risk of dementia, and it's completely free. Okay? The brain is your body's command center, so it keeps it working, keeps it in working order is really non-negotiable. While doctors have repeatedly recommended factors like eating well and trying to do new activities to support brain health, researchers over the past few years have found 2 habits worth prioritizing in your daily life. Number 1, walking, and number 2, spending time with loved ones. So, guess what you could do? You could walk and have a conversation with someone you love. And that might reduce your risk of dementia. I won't get into it because we're running out of time. But that's a whole article. It's got the experts at the New York City Health and Hospitals, and another guy that's the director of Geriatric Cognitive Health, Pacific Neuroscience Institute of Providence, St. Joe's Health. So, yeah, why walk with a loved one is smarter combo for your brain. Exactly. It's good for your brain to walk and talk, especially with someone you love. Get on your feet, move your feet, be in a good social relationship, increase your chances of living longer and healthier, shining your light bright into the world. That's all I got for you tonight. I hope you guys have a great night. I'll be back tomorrow night at 6, and you guys